right? And that's all gray area and up in the air at the minute. But yeah, there's, it's hard for me to not sit up here and feel somewhat like a sacrificial lamb, and feeling like I've put myself out there and this is what happens. Again, removing myself from the situation.
You guys are hot. 10 seconds.
There's no denying that. But for me as an individual, yeah, there's just going to have to be conversations that are had.
Rick Horrow's going to join us. He's caught up. He is at the NHL Stanley Cup Finals there in Florida, so he couldn't get to an area to talk to us, so we'll catch up with him tomorrow. So we'll turn our attention to the big news all week, as we've now had some time to digest the historic news on Tuesday regarding the future of golf. The deal with the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, essentially ends a bitter war. Some people call it a civil war between the PGA and the LIV Tour. Now the LIV Tour turns into a major force in the sports world, and sadly, at least for some of us, and for some who are not happy with the Saudi Arabia's efforts to expand their money beyond their oil business, for some it gives the Saudis now an opportunity to bank on using sports, specifically golf and Formula One, to outshine people's concerns about its history of human rights abuse. And you just heard Rory McIlroy. We're going to play some sound on his reaction yesterday. It's unfortunate that the folks that are pretty excited about the Canadian Open, which is a big deal for the country of Canada, is now basically being overshadowed this week because of the news of the merger. So Rory McIlroy has served as the face of the PGA Tour in this battle with LIV. He's been standing up for the tour in absence of leadership, which it's definitely not the commissioner, Jay Monahan, who should resign, in my opinion. And doing so, it feels that now what has happened might be the right thing. He's also admitted putting himself out there, and it's been unfortunate because he's kind of taken a hit both emotionally, physically. I mean, it's just been tough. So he talked about the feeling of being somewhat like a sacrificial lamb, as you just heard. And I want to expand more on the sound that you just heard, because he was asked if players should be compensated for not going to the LIV, the ones that stayed with the PGA Tour, the ones that were loyal. And here is what he had to say about that.
Yeah, I do. And look, I've dealt with Jay a lot closer than a lot of those guys have. And from where we were a couple of weeks ago to where we are today, I think the future of the PGA Tour looks brighter as a whole, as an entity. What that looks like for individual players in terms of keeping a tour card and bringing players back into the fold, and then that sacrifices other people. That's where the anger comes from, right? And I understand that, and there still has to be consequences to actions. The people that left the PGA Tour irreparably harmed this tour, started litigation against it. Like, we can't just welcome them back in. Like, that's not going to happen. And I think that was the one thing that Jay was trying to get across yesterday. Like, guys, we're not just going to bring these guys back in and pretend like nothing.
5 seconds.
Like, that is not going to happen. So I do have confidence in him.
Wow. I'm shocked that he said I do have confidence in him.
Well, there's more on that. But, I don't know. I just feel that he's right. These players that stayed in the PGA Tour need to be compensated.
Agreed.
They have to be compensated. We can't just say, okay, we merged, and now it's okay. It's a bunch of BS. For the last 3 years, this is all we've talked about, is the LIV Tour.
And one thing I think of, in an indirect way, they have somewhat been compensated because of the LIV Tour, the purses have gone up this last year, I think, to combat guys from leaving and going to LIV Tour. So that happened this last year. You saw purses go up in a very indirect way. Now, if they want to come back, if there's something, and that's where I wish Monahan would have had a discussion with these players probably prior to making this deal, to say, look, here's what I'm thinking at this point in time. I want your input. And the guy said, if you're hell-bent for leather on bringing them back, how about us getting compensated, those that were loyal to you, to get some kind of compensation or maybe some kind of a fee for them to come in and merge with us so that's spread out throughout the tour. Something like that. But I also think when you talk about the litigation piece of this, I think that was really the bell cow that really forced this move for the PGA, that they weren't going to win this. And then you're not going to outspend the Saudis as far as litigation, as far as attorneys, and as far as everything else, that this might have, what I think, and this is my opinion, folks, that Monahan might have forced that issue to remove that, because that litigation, as soon as this merger happened, was dropped immediately.
Yes.
So I think that had to be a big piece into making this move. That doesn't make it right. Well, you look at it and go, no, in my mind, it doesn't. But if you look at the morality card of a lot of, and I think, Rock, you alluded to this, a lot of the corporations, maybe are they going to pull their sponsorship because of this now merger, versus there's a lot of companies do a lot of business with the Saudis. A lot of countries that are ill will. China, you look at some of the communist countries, a lot of them that are out there doing business. So the morality card, I get it. I understand that. I don't agree with that. But there's business going on. But there was some ulterior motive for Monahan to make this happen without the players knowing. And that's, I think, the one fault he needs to look back on, because the meeting they had yesterday, they aired it out with him. They aired it out. Guys are yelling at him, wanting him to quit. Why didn't you consult us? There's so many open-ended scenarios. So this thing's just a big old mess. But a year from now that you got all the players on tour that are back, all the other guys, folks will go, at least we got this guy back, Koepka back, we got DeChambeau back. They're in part of the regular tour. I guess that's a benefactor of it all.
That's the only thing that is good about this merger, is that the best players who left will finally return, and it'll make it a much more competitive PGA Tour. People have to remember, where are most of the clothes made that we buy in the United States? They're made in China. Where are your sneakers for basketball, for tennis, for pickleball, for running? They're made in freaking China. And I mean, it's
a lot of contradictions.
I was just going to say, it's you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. And look, I thought it was awful the way that the deal was done. I understand it, Manuch. It was sneaky. Yes, I understand it, Manuch. You laid it out there, the money factor. But, yes, I do definitely agree that the guys who were loyal should get some over-the-top compensation.
So here's Rory. Now, this is one of the most important clips I'm going to play. When he was asked about the LIV Tour, one I think, in my opinion, this isn't necessarily about the LIV Tour. It's about the PIF, and I think that is what needs to come out here, because the LIV Tour is going away. The LIV Tour is done. It essentially going to be done, and I'll expand on that after this clip.
But it's not LIV. I think that's the thing. I still hate LIV. I hate LIV. I hope it goes away, and I would fully expect that it does. And I think that's where the distinction here is. This is the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the PIF. Very different from LIV. All I've tried to do is protect what the PGA Tour is and what the PGA Tour stands for. And I think it will continue to do that. So, look, going forward, I hope that there may be a team element, and you're going to see maybe me, maybe whoever else play in some sort of team.
5 seconds.
I don't think it'll look anything like LIV has looked, and I think that's a good thing.
Which, I the more and more I hear him talk, the more and more I'm impressed and have so much respect for him. I know there's some people that aren't big Rory McIlroy fans. I mean, I am, but also by taking himself out of the equation, here's what he had to say about this deal and how it will benefit the sport and, more importantly, the fans.
I think ultimately, when I try to remove myself from the situation and I look at the bigger picture and I look at 10 years down the line, I think ultimately this is going to be good for the game of professional golf. I think it secures it unifies it, and it secures its financial future. So there's mixed emotions in there as well, as there's going to be. I don't understand all the intricacies of what's going on. There's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of things still to be sort of thrashed out, but at least it means the litigation goes away, which has been a massive burden for everyone that's involved with the tour and that's playing the tour. and we can start to work towards
5 seconds.
some sort of way of unifying the game at the elite level.
Well, I think it's going to happen. I talked to a friend of mine
2
from
minutes.
London who knows a lot more about soccer than you and I do. Probably most of you people listening, because we're not a big soccer town. Or let's just be honest. Right. There are a lot of you that are big into the Premier League. But he was told that what may happen is it may be structured like football. Okay. Not our football, but soccer, where there would be a Premier League. That would be the PGA Tour. And then like the Premier League works is you have to win so much. The top 3 get knocked down to the next level. That next level could be the DP Tour, and then there could be the one after that, if there is such a thing. So it would have to be one of those things where, it goes from the Premier League to the Spain League to the Series A in Italy to, Germany, whatever it is. It's taking some of that same scenario because that works. We all know. There's a reason why soccer's number 1. And for those of you that are watching, Ted Lasso, you're getting a little taste of that.
1 minute.
Over the last
minute.
few years with the series and how they're now in the Premier League, where they weren't in the Premier League, and they had to earn the right to get to that Premier League.
Right.
And maybe that's going to be something similar to what they'll do with players. They'll be the top 150, and then there's that that 151 down, and you got to hold your card and have so many points to stay.
Are you interested as well as what the LIV Tour has with the team concept? I don't have any interest in that yet at all.
But there's talk that could be the case.
Okay.
That could be applied. We have some more sound. We don't have time right now. We have Jay Monahan talking about how he stumbled like crazy on the Golf Channel yesterday. We'll have some of that. We'll also play some Bryson DeChambeau if we have some time too. But this is I think one of the biggest topics in sports that we've been around. At least I've been doing this 25 years. I can't remember a bigger story that affects the sport so much than this.
I think
what could be bigger?
More controversial story than we've had in a long
You got
time.
politics like crazy in
Yes,
it.
that's right.
Then you got all that money.
I mean, we had stories like this when the NFL and AFL merged. We had stories like
that was huge.
The ABA and NBA merging.
But in my lifetime, 25 years on the radio, that's you guys.
Correct.
That's your era.
Yes,
not mine.
But the difference between that and what has taken place, and you referenced it, is the politics.
Yeah.
The politics weren't involved.
And it wasn't worldly. This is world.
Yes.
This is a world league.
That's it.
This isn't just United States golf.
That's
and
right.
PGA.